How y'all doing? I'm Paul Ryan, your host of the Across the Cowboys podcast. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. With me, as always, is my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world, Mike the Pig Crum. Mike, how are you?
Doing great, man.
Mike's number one life hack.
Life hack, dude. Anything gets dropped on the ground, I am not bending over to pick that up. I'm too old. I'm too sore. Give me this. I mean, and to be fair, this is a Mitchell. Mitchell was the first one to do this, and then he brought it in here because I was always like, "Hey, can you grab me that? Can you grab me that?" And he's like, "Here you go. Start using this." And so, yeah, that's.
Is that do you put your pen in there and that's how you write your articles after a long day?
Yeah, I put my pen in there. Lucky I don't. That's not how I do That's not how I do the podcast. It's just me clicking things, moving things around with it.
Oh, well, Mike, before we get into our discussion tonight, let the people know where they can find you on Twitter, sir.
At CD Piglet, guys. Nice and easy.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paula_Ryan15. Well, Mike, as always, I'm excited for our discussion tonight. We're going to do a little free agency teaser here. We won't dive too deep, but I think it's going to lead to an interesting conversation regardless of, of how deep we do go because it's still early and everything. But before we do that, we must do one thing and one thing only. Of course, I'm referring to Meatless Monday. Mike, I hope something good was on the menu today. Talk to me.
Yeah, there was. I had French toast sticks in the morning, so that's easy. You just stick them in the oven and put them in. But dinner, I have this. There's this recipe that I got from the old Resets, the Michael Simon, and I just add vegetables to it. But it's a zoodle dish. I had asparagus and cherry tomatoes in it. I actually had. I feel like this doesn't count as a bad Meatless Monday, but it has canned tuna in it, which tuna is meat, but it's like I was like, I'm not gonna go crazy over that. You know what I mean? I'm not like it's not even shrimp or salmon or anything, So that's in there. It has mint, and you just kind of cook the veggies until they're done. The tomatoes start to char up and burst. The asparagus is still tender and got a little bit of crunch to it. Then you just drop in the zoodles, the mint, your seasoning, and the tuna, and heat that up real quick, like 90 seconds. And the tomatoes that burst kind of turn into a sauce. Yeah. And then it's a lot like the other zoodle dishes I do with garlic, but it's a little bit different flavor profile. But yeah, it was really. I mean, it was enough for two people, and I had split it at first, and everybody else was having steak, and so I was like looking at my plate, just sitting there, and I was like, nobody's gonna eat this while they're barbecuing steak and everything. Right. So I slid the second portion onto my plate, and I just killed that whole thing.
Man, not being funny, but that sounds like a very, very elevated version of tuna casserole, just because of the noodles and the tuna, not with the sauce or the same ingredients. But when you made me think of that, I'm like, tuna and noodles, it doesn't sound like they would go good together, but they actually do.
Yeah, man, I never really ate. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. I never really ate canned tuna until I started on the Resets. And there's the newest book has a few different dishes that have tuna in it. There's another one that I had a couple days ago that's chickpeas, bell peppers, scallions, lemon juice, red pepper flake, the garbanzo beans or chickpeas, and then the tuna. And none of it's cooked. It's just mixed together and served in lettuce cups. And they are so good. And of course, I can't buy like the 99-cent, my tuna has to be like the $3 can in olive oil, like albacore, yellowfin tuna. So I don't have it often because it's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Canned tuna. But yeah, when I see them on sale, I grab them and then I stick them away. And then when it's time to have like one of these meals, pop it open and I have it ready.
Man, my childhood was a lot of tuna salad sandwiches and Cheetos, man. Some good times for me.
Bro, I wouldn't eat tuna out of a can I'm talking like just in the last couple of years. I started maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I started eating tuna out of a can because I was just like, nah, bro, that ain't tuna, And then I ate it. I was like, no, it's pretty freaking good. It's like legitimately good.
Yeah, for real. It really is, especially the higher quality stuff.
Yeah, and typically with it not on sale, the can that I get's $3.69 for a 6 ounce. It's too much. There's too much money.
Yes, sir. Well, Mike, hopefully Jerry and Stephen Jones, when they're looking at free agency this year, they're not looking for that 99-cent tuna can. They're gonna reach for that albacore, that white fin tuna you were talking about. But when you look at this team, what is Dallas's biggest need as of today?
That was such a good transition, Paul. You're a king, dude.
It's been a while since I did something like that.
Yeah, you king that one up. Biggest need for me, obviously we're going on the offensive end. Like the defensive end is pretty stout. You've got your main, culprits there. There's a couple guys that they could bring back that would elevate them. A couple of draft picks you can make that would elevate them, but they're pretty good. The offense needs to be boosted up. So the question is O-line or weapons. And it's tough because I feel like Dak plays better the better the O-line is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like right now, if you're going right now, we're talking right now, this team doesn't have Tony Pollard. He's a free agent. Like there's no
That's true.
We don't know if we're putting a tag on him. He has no Dalton Schultz, which I'm good with going away, but he is like the veteran tight end of the group. He's Dak's go-to guy. He's gone. We don't know what Gallup's going to be. He just wasn't the guy. Like if he's that, he'll get cut after next year. If he can't elevate well above that. And so I got to say weapons. And I know it's easy to wide receiver, but if they could get let's just throw he's injury prone too, but a Darren Waller or a draft pick, Kincaid in the draft, or some crazy stretch of field, or Ingram from Jacksonville, who's kind of a wide receiver that's bigger that can play some tight end, old Giants player. If you could get any type of weapon like that, I think it helps the offense. So a flip of a coin, really, you can't go wrong if you're helping the offense. If you're helping Dak Prescott out, you're doing the right thing. I'll say weapons, and I won't disagree with anybody that says O-line.
Yeah, that's where I'm going here, Mike. And you mentioned Dak plays better with when the O-line's playing well. I think offensive line is our biggest need. You look at Connor McGovern, he's a free agent. Tyron Smith, he hasn't played a full season in 4 years now. Talking about him maybe being a cap casualty. Jason Peters, I don't think he's not part of the team either. Terrence's still coming back from injury, so that leaves you with Biotish, Tyler Smith, and Zach Martin. Hey, we got some holes to fill there.
Yeah, you're not lying because Steele is restricted, but he is a free agent, and he's injury.
Yeah.
If you sign him, is he going to be himself for the first 8 weeks? I mean, look at Michael Gallup now. Different positions. I understand that. But still, you're coming off a major injury, and Steele hasn't had to deal with a major injury yet. So what if next season he's just not the guy? Tyron Smith's a cap casualty. You don't trust Peters to make it through a whole year, so why bring him in to play right tackle? He may have to play it for several weeks, and you don't trust him. He couldn't finish a game that he had to play a certain amount of snaps. If he had to play like over 20 snaps, he was basically injured every time. So, yeah, I'm not arguing against O-line. That's a totally acceptable answer in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, I totally agree with your our new subscriber, Mike. He followed us on Twitter. This is it's Coach Jason Garrett, Mike. He said, "What's up, Mike and Paul? Good stuff." He followed us on Twitter. I sent him a DM. I said, "Hey, appreciate the follow. If you could sub to our YouTube channel, it'd mean a lot." And here he is, Mike.
That's my guy. I just was talking to him on Twitter about. You have to understand I have almost 5,000, which 5,000 is nothing, but for me it's a ton. So I can't remember our exact talk. It might have been about a college player, maybe Josh Downs. But I was just talking to him about something on Twitter, like literally within the hour, I believe. So yeah, that's my guy right there. Although I hate his name with like a pattern.
The Clapper. Hey, man, thank you again, Jason, for tuning in and to subbing to the channel, brother. We sure do appreciate it. Mike, we're sticking with the free agency talk here. And you look at free agency, Dallas and Stephen Jones have found a good way of filling holes with value players, adding depth with value, and then those guys kind of having, bigger roles than maybe we anticipated and doing well. You look at the needs we have in the off season. Which one do you think could be easily fixed in free agency?
For me, it's corner. I look at
really? Okay.
Byron Jones and Jalen Ramsey are both probably cap casualties. And so they're going to be getting a ton of money. Their guaranteed monies are going to come up if they're cut.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to be looking for a big contract because I believe the contract's offset. That's something I got to ask Frankie or Patrick Nosey or KD. But I'm pretty sure, like, if they make $5 million, then it takes away from the $5 million that they would have got from the other. Like, it's deducted.
Yeah.
So they may be able to come in on a real low, like, minimum. And let's not go crazy with Jalen Ramsey. Let's say Ramsey one more and they keep him, or they rework something because they think they could go one more run. Miami's cutting Byron Jones. That's like 99.9%. Bringing Byron Jones back, putting him opposite. I bet you do, Jason. Jason's got the flat. Putting him opposite Trayvon Diggs with Deron Bland's ability in the slot, and then you may let Anthony Brown walk. You may let Jordan Lewis go and save yourself $5 million there.
Yeah.
And you have Byron Jones, Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, Izzy Mukwamu, Nashawn Wright, Kelvin Joseph going into next year. And then you could draft a guy in day 2, maybe a round 3 guy, maybe an into the second round guy, instead of having like, man, we really need to make sure we get somebody. Maybe and it's a 4th round guy. Maybe the quarterback's depth is deep and you try to get another Deron Bland later on. Whereas if you take out that and you're going into next year with Trayvon Diggs and Bland, and you're like, ooh, are we going to keep Jordan Lewis maybe and move Bland outside? Like, that makes it more of a struggle. So I think cornerback is one where they could get a cheap veteran who could play the outside corner opposite Trayvon Diggs, and that basically fills up the unit right there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're getting a guy at a discounted rate where you're not going to use high draft capital, I mean, the defense is usually the best way to go, and you want to get a veteran in the secondary, especially because we've seen with Kelvin Joseph that experiment has yet to work out. So I like that, Mike. But for me, I feel like it's wide receiver, and a couple of guys that I was looking at was DJ Chark, someone I'd be interested in and think would be a great fit next to CD, kind of having a similar role to Michael Gallup. I believe he's a little bit faster, but don't quote me on that. And then another guy was Paris Campbell. Somebody who has a lot of yak ability and would bring a skill set we don't have, can play both inside and outside. And then his teammate Ashton Doolin, who's a special teams guy, hasn't played a lot of receiver, but he has elite athletic traits and was getting some reps with the starters last year over Alec Pierce and looks pretty good. The one thing I like most about these guys is they are very affordable, haven't done enough to warrant a big contract, so we could sign them to short-term deals, and they can all play both inside and outside.
I like that. I think no matter what you get at wide receiver, though, like say you sign DJ Chark, I think 26 is still open for a wide receiver, though.
Oh, like, yeah, because it wouldn't stop you from drafting one.
Yeah, which is nice. That's what's good about the players you mentioned, and they fit the type of guys that Dallas has
drawn
to go after. Like,
exactly.
Chark may be out of their range, which is like scary, terrible.
I think he looked pretty good in Detroit. He got injured again, so I don't know if he'll be trying to go after a bigger contract, but I think if anybody were to pay him, it probably would be Detroit.
I agree. I think that's a guy that Dallas could go, hey, come here. We're like a piece away. We need you. And it could be Michael Gallup insurance. If Michael Gallup's just not going to be the same guy as he was before the ACL, DJ Chark's a pretty good X replacement. He's not an ideal X, but he could play it.
I don't know why, but of the two, I think I would rather have Paris Campbell. What do you think?
Paris Campbell's a slot guy, and they like to play CD out of the slot. This is when we talk about the draft, this is going to be an issue. Like, there's a lot of small,
exactly, yeah,
light, not
yeah.
long guys. And we're going to get into it later on, but that's not the best fit for McCarthy, or at least what his system was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So you're looking at this Dallas team, Mike. What position should be Dallas's number one priority this offseason?
I'm going to go. Now I'm switching to your side, and I'm going O-line.
Yeah.
That's going to be the number one priority. I look at it because a lot of it has to do with our own guys. Do you reward Tyron Smith's deal so he can come back, maybe play right tackle until Steele comes back? Do you bring back Steele? He's restricted. I would assume you do, at least at that point. You got to look at McGovern, Peters. If you don't bring back any, if you're like, you know what, we got to cut ties with Tyron. He's just too injured.
Yeah.
Work out. He just couldn't stay healthy. McGovern got a big contract elsewhere. Is there a vet that you bring in? If not, is there a guy worthy at 26? If Torrance drafted earlier than that, is there even a guy that's worth around that area, or are they more value rounds 3 to 5? So
right.
I think O-line's an off-season priority. They got to figure out what they're going to do with their guys.
I was looking at the free agency landscape there on Spotrac, and there's a lot of guards available. Some are older, some are younger. The younger ones, man, how can I say this? There were a lot of like 3rd-round guys, 6th-round guys. I think even some undrafted guys who performed well are looking for their second contract, and the market for them was like anywhere from $10 to $13 million range. Do you think Dallas would invest something like that in a guy that's not their own?
Probably not.
See, that's what I was thinking too.
Especially at guard.
Right. Yeah, but as far as the number one priority for me, Mike, if I were to be the GM, getting a guard would be my number one priority again, because we talked about how well Dak plays when he has time to throw.
That would work. What about what if you the move in the draft or in free agency is getting a big time tackle and then moving Tyler Smith to guard?
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it, but as good as he looked at tackle, do we want to make that move, or should we just let him continue to develop as that tackle? Because I mean, you're looking at someone who's I hate to guarantee this, but man, if he's not a Pro Bowler next year, I'd be shocked.
He looks like a stud, and ideally, I'd like to leave him at left tackle. But if you go into next year and say you bring on Peters and Tyron back, in whatever capacity, and then Steele eventually comes back, the move might be for the short term to use him at left guard and use your other tackles, around him, at least till they're all hurt, and then he has to move back out. But they definitely need to find offensive linemen. And to our buddy, the Clappers question, I don't know if Avila will be there at 58. John Michael Schmitz likely is there at 58. I don't mind that pick. And I think he has the versatility to play guard and center, which I like. But we got to see what happens. I feel like if Dallas doesn't truly use free agency this year, they may be taking a large step back.
Yeah.
And in a time where the Eagles are likely taking a step back and the Dallas and Washington steps forward are likely not enough to compete with Philly taking a step back and Dallas taking a step back, still not enough. So, man, I really hope this is the year they at least attempt to make some big moves in free agency.
And I would say, don't sleep on the Commanders either. They just hired Eric Bieniemy. They're going to go into new ownership. Maybe they want to make a big splash. They've got pieces on the defense and offense. Who knows if they were to get a Derek Carr, or if they were to make a big move to trade up for a young quarterback in the draft, or I could see them doing something where it's like, man, they're looking like the 7th wild card.
I would not be surprised if they made a run, if they stay healthy and can figure out that quarterback position. They have enough weapons. They need O-line bad. Like they need to go out and do a Bengals type, sign a couple of people. Like if I'm them, and I'm not just saying it because Micah Parsons mentioned the player or everything,
right?
But they don't really need Deron Bland. He's great. He's like a luxury, but you have Jonathan Allen, you have Ridgeway, you have other young guys that are coming up, and you have defensive ends that are really good, and you have linebackers that are fast and can move around. And I would let him go get your comp pick for him and use some money on a vet offensive lineman or two,
right?
And then try to figure out that quarterback position.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like, man, this is, of course, it's the off season, but Eric Bieniemy, he was talking a little bit about Sam Howell, how he liked him, and Ron Rivera kind of already giving him the job while Carson Wentz is there. It seems like they're pretty confident in Sam Howell.
That would be the way I go if my choices are having to sign Hankey or play Wentz or Howell. I'm just throwing Howell out there. I'd rather see what he can do for me.
Absolutely. So another position, Mike, that I don't know if this is a need, if this is a weakness. We're going to actually discuss that later. But defensive tackle, that's an interesting position for this defense because there's not really any weaknesses on this defense. But we seem Cowboys Nation seems to always want more from the defensive tackle position. Should Dallas draft or let me phrase this correctly because this was your question. So let me make sure to get this right. Do you think Dallas has changed their philosophy on defensive tackles enough that they could draft one at 26?
I hope so. Y'all know my affinity with defensive tackles. I'm the complete opposite of Dallas. I think you start in the middle and you shore that up and say, you're not going to just beat us this way. We're going to make you do different stuff than your basic run the ball, off tackle, run the ball at the middle. I'm gonna free up my linebackers by putting some beef in there. So yeah, I would definitely do that. And I was happy to see them trade a pick for a Hankins. It shows that they're starting to understand, like, no, if we don't do this, this is what's killed us. That's the two guys, Garrett. That's my two. Oh. You can tell that that Dan Quinn is trying to make them understand, like, no, dude, this. We need to stop this. The whole Dak era running up the middle has been killing us, like every playoff game. And this year, that wasn't what killed us. They shut down Debo and Christian McCaffrey running the ball, locked them up. And a big part of that was Hankins. A big part of LVE's resurgence, other than health, was Jonathan Hankins.
Yeah.
So my hope would be that they would. Now, do I think they would? No, I don't. I just don't. I believe they think you could find a guy in day 3 that you could plug in and be big, and that would be enough. But I would love it if they would. Mazzie Smith or Sayaka Ika. Man, all day.
Micah, I want to say yes, but looking back at the previous 4 drafts, they've drafted 4 in the last 4 drafts, and 2 of those were day 2 picks. Tristan Hill round 2, Neville Gallimore ran round 3. Tristan Hill, of course, didn't pan out. He showed flashes. Neville Gallimore had a bad year, but we've seen flashes from him too. I can't see them. I can't see them doing it. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't want them to, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I agree.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, we're going to talk about him.
Dude, that's ridiculous. 550 at 19. My God.
We will be talking about him shortly. I promise you.
So you mentioned this player earlier, Mike, was Deron Payne of Washington. Would Deron Payne be a fit for this Dallas team?
A fit? Absolutely. Oh, my God. Put him next to Osa. And having a defensive line of Micah Parsons, Tank, Oso Digizua, and Deron Payne, disgusting. That is a disgusting defensive line.
Let me rephrase the question. What about signing a big name free agent like Deron Payne? Is that something that you could see as a possibility?
I don't, because, okay, let's say we get what we want and they go out and sign. They finally spend money, right?
Yeah.
What in the world tells you that they would spend money at that position? They don't spend real draft tackle capital on a one technique.
Yeah.
They just don't do it. So, man, I would love it, but and I wish they would.
Right.
I wish they'd go out and sign a guy like a Deron Payne, but I just don't see any way they will.
Yeah, he's coming off a career year. Dallas would have to open up the checkbook, Mike, and with the versatility to play nose tackle and defensive tackle, and with 5 years of experience, and he's only 25 years old, Payne would be the type of player that takes our defense to the next level. But man, we haven't seen nothing from Steven to think that he would make a move like this.
No, I just hope he spends money, period. I'm not
Exactly.
for defensive tackle help like that. That I just could never see that happening.
You look at the defensive tackle position, Mike. Do you view it as a need of an upgrade, or getting a really good one like a Deron Payne would be a luxury?
For me, it's a severe need. Like,
wow, okay.
I've watched us do this every year before this year, and they finally said, we got to go get Hankins. We got to go get a real one technique. Well, now Hankins a free agent. So, I look at it, and Osa flashes, but is inconsistent. Gallimore dropped way. He had a terrible year. He was
so
getting
bad.
inactives. We lost our boy Ridgway to the Commanders because for some reason we wanted to keep Dak Prescott on the roster when everybody knew he was going to be out 4 weeks. If they just put him on IR, we'd still have Ridgway, and we probably wouldn't have an issue here because going into his he played so well going down the stretch for the Commanders. He'd probably just be coming into his own for Dallas this next offseason, but they just right now they have Osa, who's a flashy player but doesn't do it consistently. Bohanna, who couldn't see the field at the end of the year, and we hope they can bring Hankins back. But even if they do, he's 32, I think. So I think it's a severe need. At least of like a veteran one technique. Let alone if you can boost your 3 technique either by Osa taking the leap or by getting a guy better and making Osa rotational.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Man, it's kind of sickening to think about that. Ridgway played so well that maybe Washington's like, hey, we could spend this money elsewhere. We could let a guy like Deron Payne walk when we had him on the roster.
I know, and that likely is what happens. Like, likely they just plug in Ridgway, who's not going to be Deron Payne, but he still allows Jonathan Allen to be Jonathan Allen, Chase Young to be Chase Young, whichever sweat they have. I can't remember which one to be that guy. He allows the linebackers to run free. He just doesn't bring the pass rush that Payne does. He isn't that extra level, which is why you pay that guy between 15 and 20 million a year. It's because he does all the other stuff and get you sacked. So, yeah, if I'm the Commanders, that's what I'm doing. Ridgway moves up and plugs in next to Allen. Deron Payne gets you a comp pick next year.
With the way that Dan Quinn rotates these guys, I would agree that defensive tackle, I shouldn't say agree, but I think defensive tackle is in need of an upgrade. I don't think it's a big time need because, we have seen Osa be a difference maker, but maybe he's not fit to play 60 or more % of the snaps, which is kind of sad. But again, Dan Quinn doesn't want his guys doing that anyway. But I would like to see somebody who is a regular difference maker.
Yeah, me too. And I really need them to get a guy that could be a Jonathan Hankins. Even if it's just Jonathan Hankins, we need a guy that helps shore up the run and makes our linebackers better by keeping blockers off them.
You mentioned Bohanna. I thought he was having a good season. Then he gets injured. We bring in Hankins, and Hankins being, the more polished player. He looked really good. When he wasn't in the games, the games that he missed, we saw what it did to our run defense. But I thought Bohanna was showing strides of, looking like he's going to be a regular rotation piece.
Bohanna started off pretty solid, but people found ways to move him. You can get on the move, and he doesn't penetrate fast enough to break up a play. He can be moved by double teams. Like, he isn't as solid, even at his bigger body, than Hankins is. Hankins could just be hit by 2 guys and still not move.
Yeah.
Bohanna could stay pretty well one-on-one, but lateral hits to him, he could be displaced. And it happened too often, too easily. for somebody to trust him in there. Now
I got you.
they're off season, so let's see what he brings to start the year.
Mike, we were talking about wide receivers earlier, and we know it's been Mike McCarthy's offense since he's been here, obviously. But now that he's calling the plays and everything, he's gonna have a type of wide receiver that he wants in his system. You look at the receivers in this class; it's more top heavy than there is depth. I don't know if you would agree with that statement or not, but do you think these guys fit in his system? And when I say these guys, I mean like the smaller slider wide receivers.
I don't, and the reason is like he's had smaller guys occasionally, but
Randall Cobb.
Randall Cobb. Did you say Randall Cobb?
Yeah, I said Randall Cobb. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the perfect one, under 6 foot slider, but they kept him mostly at slot, which that's where CD roams. CD Lamb is more the slot guy, and so the way the Jermaine Jones, the Jordy Nelsons, the Devontae Adams were more over 6 foot, 200 pounds, catch a slant and be able to break tackles I don't know how well these guys fit in that, and I don't know if his philosophy's changed because we haven't seen it enough to where I believe these lower guys can play outside. Now, let's assume Michael Gallup gets back to his decent form before the injury, a full year off, and he's your X. Well, then you have Lamb, who's a Z/slot guy that's going to move mostly in the slot. Well, now you need a Z receiver and depth, and I just don't see them using the slider guys in the West Coast, get separation, catch a slant, break big plays type. The little guys, I don't know how much he'll want that. So I got to see how he's implemented with the new offense, that with what changes he's made since Green Bay.
Yeah.
But as far as from the Green Bay system, I don't believe a lot of these receivers would fit.
The Clapper, he said he drafted Greg Jennings too, who was smaller.
Was Greg Jennings? Let me see Greg Jennings.
I don't know. I always thought Greg Jennings was a bigger guy, at least over 6 foot, but I could be,
let me
totally
check
wrong.
right now while you answer.
Well, yeah, I was looking, Mike, Josh Downs. I read your article, by the way, great article. He was 5'10". Randall Cobb's 5'10". Devontae Adams, he's only 6'1". Jordy Nelson 6'3", but look at CeeDee Lamb, he's 6'2". I think as long as they're taller than 5'9", Mike, I think we'll be okay.
All right, so here's the thing about Greg Jennings, and this is not bad because a lot of the guys that I like are right around 5'11".
Yeah.
But he's 5'11", almost 200 pounds, just under
thick.
200. Where a lot of the guys now are 5'11", 175, 5'11".
Yeah.
They're a lot slighter. Also, Greg Jennings, I believe, had pretty long arms, where a lot of the guys here are not lengthy arms. So, I hope they can fit him in. We're going to talk about a guy later on that, man, he has me so conflicted to where what I want him to be to what do I think he can be it.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll talk about him later, but I just right now I see these smaller guys like what's the Njigba, the USC kid, the kid who was Pitt and then went to USC, I believe.
Jordan Addison.
Was that Addison that was?
Yeah, Jordan Addison, but Jackson Smith and Jigba, he was at Ohio State and he stayed there.
Oh, that's it. Ohio State. You're right. I mixed them up. I've been receivers. That's a big one.
Yeah.
But like he's a guy that's a route like a murderer within the like a 20, 25 yards. Like he is a killer in that area, but he doesn't do much beyond that. But that is useful. Like especially for a Dak. But not really for Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy likes guys that get the ball, that can take a 5-yard slant and make it a 20-yard, break a tackle and make a 25-yard play out of it, which he's not really that. The Addison?
Yes. No.
Yeah, Addison's not really that. I feel like I'm mixing them up.
No, Jackson Smith and Jigba's not really that, right? Is that what you're saying? Because he's the one
I got to look over my notes on both those players. One of those
players,
he's the one that's 6 foot. And man, I can't remember which one's which right now. I apologize, guys. Terrible podcasting. But the one he's like 6 foot. He's a Cooper Cup type, but he's smaller. And he plays in that range, like he always gets open in zones and stuff, kind of like a Hunter Renfrow would. But I just don't know if that fits what Mike McCarthy wants in his West Coast. So I kind of want to see what he drafts, because then if he drafts a Joshua Downs, now we're sitting there going, oh, okay, this is a guy that can play like a big guy, but he's real small. You would think he's a slot only guy in the NFL, but CD's a slot guy that they like. So, I want to see how they attack free agency and how they attack the draft before I know, if he's changed his thinking.
I would love it, man, if we were to sign Paris Campbell just to a team-friendly deal. I know he's mainly a slot guy, but get a guy like that who can do things behind the line of scrimmage. He did a lot of that stuff at Ohio State. He was kind of criticized for it. I think that's why he fell to the second round, because he's a 4.4 guy, I believe. And then we were to draft like a Jalen Hyatt who can take the top off, and all of a sudden we've got CD, we've got the speed, and then we've got the guy who can work the middle behind the line of scrimmage. Man, that'd be fun. And sounds like all those pieces would fit in a West Coast offense.
I would really like them, and I think he fits, like, price wise and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think Robert Woods would be a good risk. I believe he's a free agent.
They're probably going to cut him. He's going to be a cap casualty, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a guy that could, if healthy, can catch the ball and break stuff. He has good size. He fits the West Coast. He gets open. He's a good separator. And he fits kind of what Dallas likes to do. Take an injured guy, pay him low, give him a chance to make some money the next year by having a good year. Tell him, hey, come here, spotlight's on you. You get 800 yards and 6 touchdowns here. You get yourself a big contract the next year.
And Robert Woods would not be like a locker room disruptor or anything like that. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. At all. He's a good locker room guy. So, yeah, I'd like to see a signing like that for the team.
I wouldn't hate that at all. Robert Woods he's a still good wide receiver. Of course, coming off that injury last year, he didn't really look the part in Tennessee. But another healthy year, a healthy off season, man. I wouldn't mind him in this offense, Mike.
Bring him in, hopefully.
So we're talking a lot about wide receivers, but when you think about McCarthy's offense, what type of receivers work best here in the West Coast offense?
It's basically what he likes to do is get a read, get a quick pass, get it into a playmaker's hands, and then let the playmaker do stuff. So even backs, like if as a running back you can't receive the ball, you're basically in his offense, you're pretty pointless. Reason I think Zeke will end up being a cap casualty. I just don't see where he fits in Mike McCarthy's offense. So I think it's guys that slant flats. You see how they run it, get the ball out quick to the guy, depending on the defense, let them make plays, make them tackle you consistently, make defense tackle you consistently. What I want to know is what has changed as far as scheming guys open, because you need now in the NFL. And if he plans on having an offense that schemes guys open, you can get the smaller, faster guys and let them make plays in their way with speed and breakaway ability. So, man, I'm excited to see how it goes, but I'm nervous because the way the Cowboys have been the last decade or so, it doesn't spell success for this upcoming year. They've got to change some of their ways this upcoming year, or I think there could be a pretty decent drop off in ability on this team.
That's a scary thought, Mike, because like as we mentioned, the division continues to get better. If we don't make a move this year, man, who knows where we could be, come week 1.
I agree, man. If I'm them, there's a lot of things I'm doing, which I'm sure we'll talk about in future pods.
Yes, sir. Okay, Mike. So if the tags are equal, what would you want? A cornerback, wide receiver, offensive lineman, or defensive tackle at pick 26?
I think we've kind of gone over this before. O-line.
Yeah.
And the reason is we talked about it. Dak plays better when he feels protected by the O-line, when he doesn't have to watch the O-line. I think the run game opens up your play action pass, which is what Schottenheimer does well. I think your players that you have fit for a play action offense. And I think being able to run the ball and pick up first downs of play action, keep your defense fresh, control the game. I think that's the best way to win for our team, the way our offensive line is, the way our defense is. So, yeah, I'd go O-line.
How would you feel if Dallas re-signed Connor McGovern? We played him at right tackle until Steele got healthy. Tyron at left tackle, Smith at guard, and then, that was kind of our offensive line heading into the season for the first 6 weeks.
You mean Peters, not McGovern?
No, I meant McGovern. Like, what if we played him next to Zach Martin at right tackle?
He's not long enough and strong enough and doesn't have the footwork to play right tackle. You wouldn't want him out there.
Or I guess he can't play tackle at all, correct?
Yeah, he would be guard, and then what you do is put Tyron Smith at right and then Tyler Smith at left. So you would be left tackle, Tyler, McGovern, Biotish, Zach Martin, Tyler.
Okay, well, in that scenario, how would you feel about that?
I would feel like I need Walesko to be good because I don't trust Tyron Smith to stay healthy. And if he doesn't, do we trust Steele next year? So that's what makes it really scary, not getting another offensive tackle or like that Terrence Steele injury really messed up our O-line for last year and for next year. Really put us behind the 8 ball because you just don't know what he's going to be off that injury.
Man, so it's crazy to think that we could not only need a guard but also a tackle.
Yeah, they could be. This is why for me it makes the Tyron Smith's an easy decision if Steele is okay. If Steele's good and ready to go, you save the money and let Tyron Smith go. If you want to bring Peters back cheap to be your swing, that's fine. But you have Tyler Smith, you have Terrence Steele, and you worry about guard. But with the Steele injury, it throws a real wrench into things. And the way Dallas and free agency is, I think they're just going to go, well, let's see what Walesko could do.
Yeah. Oh man, I hate thinking about needing that much offensive line help, dude. That's really scary. Okay, so Mike, we've done really good with our draft picks the last couple of seasons. But you're looking at the state of this team. How many starters do we need with our day 1 and 2 picks in this upcoming draft? Do you think?
This is terrifying because if they would use free agency like other teams do,
right,
it wouldn't be an issue. But last year they didn't want to use free agency, so look how they picked. We need an offensive lineman. Okay, Tyler Smith. Now that worked out great, but he it ended up being an elite pick, but it isn't the best way to go about it. And then in the second round was
Sam Williams.
Sam Williams, that was kind of luxury coming up.
Yeah.
And then you went through, like, they needed a wide receiver, so they took one in the third. They needed a tight end, so they took one in the fourth. Like, they needed a one technique, so they took Ridgeway. Like, they basically just filled holes in the draft, and that is a terrible way to draft. An awful way to draft is to try to fill your holes to make your team better for the next upcoming season. Yeah. That is a terrifying way to draft. Right now, I would say we need an offensive lineman, a playmaker, and a defensive depth piece at either corner, defensive tackle, or linebacker. So you need 3 guys that could have significant minutes if you don't use free agency, attack free agency early on.
So would you rather add starters via free agency and depth in the draft, or target depth in the free agency and add starters in the draft?
I want them to spend money in free agency so that you can go into the draft and go, we got our team good enough right now. It's not
Yeah.
perfect, but our team's good enough. We could go out and win a bunch of games with Dak Prescott as our quarterback with this team. And then you can go into the draft and go, okay, who's the best guy? We need an edge in round 1. That's fine. We may not need an edge this year. We got Tank, we got Parsons, we got Williams, we got Armstrong under contract. Maybe Fowler comes back. Who knows? You have Golston who can move around the line. Like you have guys, but in a year is Tank there? In a year is Dorrance Armstrong there? Does Sam Williams take a jump? So you if Nolan Smith falls to you at 26, you want to be able to grab him if you can. But if you don't do anything in free agency and you need a wide receiver, O-line, and corner, well, guess what? You're going to pass up a good edge for a maybe good, maybe above average corner. And then you're like, oh, shoot, we messed up here.
Yeah, and Jason, to your point about the Eagles having 10 to 11 starters as free agents, man, they've already shown us they'll go out in free agency and make moves. They'll trade picks. They'll do whatever it takes to put together a good team. And they're going to – I guarantee you that Howie Roseman's going to find a way to sign Jalen Hurts to a big contract and then still put a really good roster together after that.
Yeah, they'll bring Hargrave back. I would make no doubt in my mind that they'll bring Hargrave back. They'll bring one of those 2 linebackers. They'll probably bring Charlie Garner Johnson.
Apparently they're going to franchise tag him.
Yeah, and then go into it and go, okay, we lost Fletcher Cox, we lost Brandon Graham, some older guys. We'll get some youth to build in there. Like they use free agency and trades. Dallas doesn't. So
yeah.
That's why they were into a Super Bowl, got rid of a quarterback, reworked their whole team, and are in a Super Bowl again. They have a quality front office that Dallas doesn't have besides drafting.
And Dallas has been so good at drafting, so now they tend to overvalue their draft picks where like they could trade for a proven veteran, like for a 3rd or 4th round pick. And they're like, no, we're just going to take the cheaper guy and develop this guy because that's how much we like our scouts and that's how well we believe in our development team.
Yeah, for me, the thing I'd be trying to do for Dallas, if I'm Dallas, I'm trying to swap 26 for a receiver. I'm trying
to Evans, dude. I'd be happy about doing that.
Evans, Godwin, Diggs, D-Hop, I'd probably, with that contract, it'd probably be a number 2. But Diggs, Evans, Godwin for 26, sign me up all day for that. Give me – we need to help Dak these next 2 years.
Right.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Okay, Mike, we're going to go to your views from the sidelines here. I know you've been doing a lot of scouting, Mike. So as of today, who not named Devin Witherspoon is your favorite prospect?
We talked about him earlier. Defensive tackle out of Michigan, Mazi Smith. I believe. Mazi?
I think so.
Okay, so this guy is 6'3", 337, and he also made number 1 on the freaks list. You talked about the 550 when he was 19. He also ran like under a 7 3-cone. Like you're talking about 3 cones that you want your edge rushers to get. This guy's doing. He's quick out of his split. He's a freakazoid. And if he got in his one thing is he doesn't always go. He's not always like, I'm going to go at it. And if you got Dan Quinn to light a fire under this guy, he could be an unstoppable. It would not shock me after the combine if he ends up going top 15.
Yeah. His motor is questionable. That's what you're saying?
Yes. In college, his motor was questionable, which is weird for a Harbaugh guy.
Yeah.
Little shocking for a Jim Harbaugh guy. But he also might have been like, hey, I ain't getting paid that money yet. Some people are like that, The only worry is do they turn into Hainsworth once they get paid that money,
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to turn into a guy to be Albert Hainsworth, but man, he is an immovable force. He has to be double teamed in the run game. He is an elite 1 technique versus the run. And then the fact that he has all these pass rush traits that a guy like Dan Quinn could get a hold of, and Arden Key. No, that's a defensive.
That's the defensive line coach, right?
Arden Key is a defensive tackle or defensive end. I'm saying the name wrong. I can't remember. Maybe the Clapper remembers who our defensive line coach is. But if those two got a hold of this guy is like the ultimate ball of defensive tackle clay. And I am in love with him. I would draft him at 26.
Oh man, I like hearing that. Okay, Mike, here we are with one word. And Mike, I want you to use one word for the offseason has me feeling blank.
Bird.
Ooh.
Bird.
Interesting.
And dirty. Yeah, Durden. Yeah, that's it. My bad. Arden Key. You can see where I messed that up. Leave me alone. Okay? Yeah, scared. It has me scared. This team with a good front office could be a Super Bowl contender, but if it plays like it normally does, like the bad front office, that it just is a bad front office.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah.
Then they could see another thing where Dak has to drag them to 10 wins and then isn't good enough to play with the San Franciscos and the Phillies and them. And once they get into the playoffs and face them, they look like the bad team, like the not as good a team as they're built up during the year.
Yeah. For me, like this offseason has me feeling anxious, man. I mean, the teams in our division, they're just getting better. I don't see them getting worse. The league is kind of moving forward while Dallas is, swimming in place, man. We got to see something. We got to see a change, and I don't know if we will or not. So I'm feeling anxious.
You're scared.
Scared.
You're scared. We both use a different word to describe our exact feeling because anxious works perfectly.
And man, I've kind of started hearing that they might play hardball with Trayvon Diggs about a contract and everything. And then I was listening to the draft show, and they were talking about they took a cornerback at 26. Could that be to replace Trayvon Diggs? It's like, man, what's going on already?
Parsons and Lamb I would lock up, guarantee. Diggs, I'm 60-40 they'll sign him because I believe Trayvon Diggs is going to go, I was an all-pro. I'm an interception machine. Nobody really throws to me unless they scheme some kind of play, like a trick play. That's basically the only guys that go after him is you scheme a play up to try to fool him because he's aggressive, which is fine. But I'm terrified that they're going to that they're not going to get him signed.
Man, they already got him at a discount in the second round. What more do they want, Mike?
They're cheap. They're a bad front office. Like they draft absolutely incredible, and that's a credit to Will McClay, who they hired, and they're good at filling in roster spots with cheaper free agents. But and Jerry said it, he likes to be in the middle, and that's the way you stay in the middle. But if you want to really compete, you got to use free agency. Really use it.
Yeah, you really do. Okay, Mike, here we are with our top 5, and I like this topic. I'm interested to hear what yours are. We're going to talk about our top 5 pet peeves. You don't strike me as somebody who gets easily annoyed, but I'm sure there are some things that get under your skin that grind your gears. So, Mike, number 5, what's your number 5 pet peeve?
These are almost all work related at this way back job, dude. God, I hate that job. I hate it there so much. So the first one is people with no initiative. So like they like it's stuff where it's like, you could just do that. Like, just do it. Like, why are you leaving stuff for other people to be done or it just frustrates me. Like I'll keep all these job related, although it's the initiative one is other things.
Yeah.
But like I'll come in after a couple days off and I could just tell that nobody prepped any of the stuff besides the stuff that the owner preps, like the workers. Like I do a lot of prep in between cooking and taking food out and expediting and everything. Sometimes I have to work POS up there at the front and doing refills and doing all that. I do side work, you know, and you can just tell that a lot of like nobody else does it. And I'll come back and like things are empty. So it's like you just didn't do any. And I just hate that. So no initiative to go and just just do stuff. You don't have to be told or leave it to other people. You can do it too.
Dude, lazy coworkers are the absolute worst, bro.
I hate it. It's just, and I won't even go as far as to call them lazy. And there's a slight difference between, not that they don't work hard when it's busy and they're not cleaning and stuff like that, but the little bit extra, that little bit where, okay, there's a slow hour and a half. I know you busted your butt and everything. You worked hard. You weren't lazy at the time when it was busy.
Yeah.
You were working hard and everything. But now it's that extra hour and a half that you could either stand around a little bit, or you could go that extra to do stuff, to prep, to set your next shift up for success.
Yeah.
And then you don't do it, and it bothers me.
Yeah, there's a big difference in a lack of initiative and laziness. You're absolutely right there, Mike.
They're tagging. They are tagging, but a lot of the workers there aren't lazy.
Yeah.
When it's busy, they bust their butt, but then they don't go the extra like I would like them to do.
Yeah. Well, for me, Mike, I don't know how you feel about this one, but I get very annoyed when I have to repeat myself. And it's not just repeating myself one time, but if I have to repeat myself twice or three times, that's one thing. It's like, okay, so are you like playing a joke on me? Are you trying to be funny by making me repeat myself? Because you're starting to annoy me.
What'd you say now? I'm deaf, so I definitely get. I've had exes that like really, they say something and I'm like one more time, because I just can't hear, and they would be like, no, never mind, and I'm like, damn, I can't. Like, I'm sorry, I was listening. I can't. I'm like deaf.
Yeah.
But like one time you go like said, and then after a while I was like, I'm deaf. Why do you get mad when I can't? Like, I listen. I just can't hear shit. I'm deaf.
Right.
But yeah, it would get annoying if it was like constant, like you have to tell somebody 3-4 times, hey, do this. Hey, can you get this? Can you, hey, off the phone, that type of stuff. Yeah.
All right, Mike, moving on to number 4. I have a couple of driving related ones in here, but I can't stand people who ride the exit lane for miles, dude. Like, you've seen them drive past 3 exits and they're still there, and then you're trying to get over and they're still riding the lane, and then you finally get over, and what do? They get over right after you get over. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I have to admit, like like my dad's that type, because what it is he's a truck driver.
Okay.
Or normally they have to stay in that lane.
Yeah.
So he's so used to being in it that he goes in that lane. So if we're going somewhere and it's kind of like, hey, you could pass them if you want to. You're allowed to. You're not in the truck anymore. And so it can get. If I remember, my mom would get so mad. My dad's like, I don't know. I'm just used to it. My mom would be like, get in the other lane and pass people. And so, my mom is with you on that one, 100%.
Mama Crum, shout out. Mike, what's number 4 on your list?
Number 4 is people who talk to you inconsiderately.
Oh, God.
I'll tell you the one that gets me. I listen to a lot of Cowboys podcasts. So there's a lot of this other ways, but I'm going to tell you my main pet peeve. So I have to listen to it on 1.5 sound to 2 sound speed. Otherwise, I'll never get through them. Mm-hmm. So they talk really fast, like they're going. But I'm used to it. I've been listening to it forever. But I'm telling you, 3-4 different people here. I'll be inside prepping with it. Come on, and they'll walk in while I'm listening to it, and go. And I'm like, I get it. You guys can't understand it. I'm trying to listen to it. I know what they're saying.
Yeah.
You stop over it, because now I can't hear it. Now I hear that as well, because you're doing it over me trying to listen to it. Mm-hmm. I want to hear Brian Broaddus, not what you guys are doing. I'm telling you, like 3 of them do it at the house. 3 to 4 do it. And I'm like, stop. Don't come in and do that. I get it. It's fast. And the first time you hear it and you're like, why is it like that? You tell them, then it would be like, oh, okay. Like, hey, why is it all? But I'm telling you, I've been listening to this for years and they still do it. And I'm like, I want to, this is me doing a strangle, because I hope Dad's listening, because he does that shit too. I want to strangle your ass.
It's like the joke wasn't that funny the first time. It's still not. It's not funny any funnier now.
And it's basically what they're saying is they're coming and going, I don't know why you listen to it like that. I can't understand it. Is what they're saying when they're going, blah, 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 and I'm like, I get that, but you don't have to listen to it.
Yeah.
I listen to it. I'm used to it. I can hear Marcus Mosher and McCool and Dane Brugler and Yeomans and Nick and Derek Eagleton and Broadus, and I hear them all in that voice, and I know what they're saying. So just let me listen to it.
I hear you, Mike. Okay, number 3 on your list.
Number 3, nitpicky people. God, this is a work one. Like you're busting your butt like hard, and like a thing's like a little off, and instead of fixing it, they have to be like, "Hey, this is all. Hey, this shouldn't be like this." I'm like, just move it over and do it. Like, we got 1,000 things going on. I don't need that. Like, it's inexperienced people. It's people who if you've cooked for a long time, you wouldn't even say anything about it. It would be quick, easily done. But it's the inexperienced people that are like, hey, look at me. I know this is wrong. All right, fix it. Like,
dude,
no,
yeah.
Just handle it and leave me the fuck alone and let me get on to the next thing.
Yes, sir. Mike, I'm going back to the road here. People who don't use their turn signal.
Oh, God. The worst.
There are times like, because I'll deliver food on the weekends just to make some extra cash. And like, I'll be waiting at a blinking yellow light to turn into a lane, and there will be a car that's, driving straight ahead. And I'm just kind of waiting for them to pass. And then they don't pass. They don't have their blinker on. They turn right, and then the light turns red. It's like, man, or they'll like be, probably playing on their phone, driving below the speed limit. And then all of a sudden they turn like, I'm very close to, I mean, not super close to like getting into a wreck, but like, almost like a incident with their bumper. It's just, what's so hard about using your blinker? I mean, is it really that hard? It's basic driving.
I'll add one that's similar. People that are in the right-hand turn lane, but wait for the fucking green light.
Oh God, dude.
Turn.
That's
You
a
don't
great
gotta
one.
wait for the green light.
That is a great one. Okay, Mike, before I start getting angry just thinking about it, I'm going to move to number 2. Number 2 is people who invade my personal space. And what I mean is like, like say, for instance, you're prepping at a table, right? And, maybe somebody comes up next to you to want to talk, but, there's like all this room over here, but they're like right in your small little corner that they can fit into, right in your face. Or if you're in the kitchen doing something and instead of like waiting for you to get out or saying, excuse me, or saying, hey, can you hand me this? Or like in your bubble, like moving around, like getting very close to you while you're doing things, maybe doing the dishes or prepping or that kind of stuff. It's
this dude named Albert that I used to go to school with, nice guy and everything, but he always wanted to talk like right.
Face talker, huh?
Bro, and what would come up right in your face and didn't, I may brush my teeth twice a day, guy, minimum, like minimum. Sometimes 3 times a day.
Yeah.
He was not. So that made
Lord. Did you carry mints with you?
I didn't because I didn't need them because I've always been, even with my teeth, they're as fucked up as they are. It's because I was born there's something in the family that has low enamel. So that's why I brush so much, because my teeth are extra fucked up. I've had so many pulled. I have my top's all denture. They've been all pulled out. They're all it's a fakes. So it even with that, I keep my bottom super clean, try to keep them as much as possible. But yeah, I never kept mints because my breath wasn't humming like that, because I used Listerine and I used really expensive good toothpaste, and he wanted to be right there with that stank. Man, he was killing me.
Yeah, so look, Jason Garrett asked a good question here, Mike. Would you guys be open to signing Patrick Peterson at $5 million? Good mints who are still playing at a high level.
I got to rewatch his tape to see, because if he plays about as good as Malik Hooker did, because is he safety now or is he still playing corner?
I think he's playing safety.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong.
Malik Hooker didn't have a great year. I really wouldn't bring Malik Hooker back. But if Peterson's the same, then I'd rather keep the guy that knows the system at that price. I think it was between $4 and $5 million. than have to, bring in a different guy. I would actually like to upgrade that even better. A guy that can get end to end in the single high, which we don't really have right now.
Yeah. For me at 5 million, I think I'd rather, use that to try to bring back LVE or something, honestly, myself.
Agreed.
Okay, Mike, number 2 on your list.
Hardiness.
Mm.
Hardiness. And it is so much, and by people high up at my work.
Yeah.
Above me. I don't like tardy. I've just been a person you could count on in my 30 plus years of working, because I started at 11, you can count on two hands how many times I've been late, probably on one hand.
Oh, wow.
So I am not a tardy guy. I'm not a call-in guy. That is a huge pet peeve for me. If you're supposed to be somewhere on time, get there on time.
All right, Mike, here we are, number 1 on your list. I like that second one, though.
Unappreciative people.
Mm.
When I was talking about earlier how I take the initiative to do the extra work, or when you do just that it's never you never get a good word from them. Like, it's always shitty. There's never a thank you for this and that. They're always looking at the worst thing. They're always like, it just sucks. Like, be appreciative. Like, especially in my thing, I'm on disability. I don't have to work. I make enough money on my disability to pay my bills.
Yeah.
I come in to help. And then when I'm there, I'm not lazy. I bust my butt. And to still feel like just no appreciation for it. It's like from anybody around there, it just stinks.
Yeah, that would not be a good feeling. I felt that way at a job before where I did a lot when I would come in. I would be the last one to come in, but I would also be one of the last ones to leave. However, when I was there, man, I did a lot of things that should have been done while I wasn't there. And then there were people who were there that would show up late almost every day, who were getting extra hours that I wasn't getting, who got away with a lot of crap they shouldn't have been getting away with. Those work politics that ultimately led me to walk out on my job after getting frustrated one day. But yeah, I know exactly how you feel, Mike.
Yeah, you get taken advantage of, and it's by everybody, because the people that don't do it themselves, the other unders or equals to you, they don't do it because they just expect you to do it, and the bosses don't appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right, Mike, number 1 on my list, rude people. I mean, they walk in front of you. They don't say, excuse me. You open the door, open for them. They don't say thank you. You say thank you. They might not say you're welcome. I mean, all those little things that just common courtesy stuff. They don't do it. That's my number 1 pet peeve is rude people.
That's a great one. You let somebody over into your lane and they don't give you the nod or the wave.
Yeah.
Fucking assholes.
Yes, sir. But man, I don't know what it is, but when people just walk in front of you without saying excuse me, that really bothers me, especially at work.
Yeah. Rudeness. It's because it's so easy to be not rude. I mean, I won't sit if there's an elderly or a female that's standing.
Yeah.
No, oh no, I don't want to sit. I go, then we'll both stand. That's fine. And I'll leave the door open, opening the door for people. You don't have to be overly that crazy, but don't be a dick.
Yeah. All right, Mike, here we are. We're last week I gave you some homework. We're continuing with our prospect review. This week we're going to be reviewing Marvin Mims, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Mike, I hope to hear some good things from this guy. This guy.
Oh, production machine. Listen to this production. I'll try to go through this fast because we're over an hour, but listen to this production right here. Texas. You know how many great football players come from Texas?
Oh my God, yeah.
He has the Texas high school record for career receiving yards, almost 5,500. He has 5,485. He has the most receiving yards in a season in high school, 2,629. As a senior, he put up 117 catches for those 2,629 yards and 32 touchdowns. In his sophomore year, he had I was going through his freshman year, even he had 37 for 610 and 9 touchdowns. In his sophomore year, he had 32 for 705, 5 touchdowns, 22 yards per reception, and a 1.4 48.2 QBR when targeted.
Oh, Lord.
Just a production machine.
Yes, sir.
He reminds me of a smaller Des Bryant.
Lord.
Yeah. I mean, if I told you the guy, if I didn't tell you height or anything, and I told you his thing, I told you I go, throw him screens and slants and stuff because he's hard to bring down, crossers or screens because he's hard to bring down. He's great at going vertical. Not only can he stack you and beat you with a vertical, but he goes up and makes catches like high points and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he feels like Des Bryant, but he's only 5. What is he? Let me get his height. 5'11", 184. So here is where my worry comes in. Can he do the stuff he does in college against guys in the NFL? So back when I had an analogy for this. Back when I played basketball when I was younger, I was 6'3.5" to 6'4". I was over 300 pounds, but I was extremely quick-footed.
Mm-hmm.
I played basketball. I played football. So if you put a big guy on me, I use my spin moves. I take him outside and beat him with my quickness. If you put a smaller guy on me, I just overpower him, throw a jump hook over him, and beat him that way. But then I would run into this guy named Solomon Bryant. There was this one guy. He was a little bit smaller than me, super yoked guy, really athletic. And I would start taking him out to the three-point line and shooting threes. And they would allow me to do that because they saw me dominate so much in the low post. They're like, good, let him shoot threes. But the reason I got out of the post is because this guy was quick enough to handle me in there. And he was strong enough to keep me, I could basically run a jump hook and that was it. I couldn't really use my other moves, but he doesn't know that. So I would stay back. And that is my worry about Marvin Mims. Can he Des Bryant people at 5'11", 184?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't see him going up against Trayvon Diggs, a guy who has the size and speed and ball skills that he does, and he just goes up and gets the ball like that. And he doesn't win in other way. Like he's good on screens, he's good on break tackles, he's good on crossers, but he's real limited in his route tree. He has the ability to be better, but never had to, because I'll just run verticals and go up over you, or I'll run crossers, catch the ball, break a tackle, and run it for a bunch of yards, a big play. And so, or I'll catch a screen, break a tackle, and run it for a big play. Like he never had to develop because when he played, people couldn't stay with him like that,
Mm-hmm.
And so my worry is he gets into the NFL and that type of stuff doesn't work at his size. And then what can he do? So, man, that's why I think if he was 6'1" or 6'2", I think he'd be a top 20 pick. But being 6'2", 190, say 6'1", 190, he'd be a top first round, clear, no doubt. Now I think he's a second round pick because a lot of people are going to go, yeah, he's real productive, but the way he plays, it reminds me of a defensive end that gets a ton of sacks, but it doesn't translate to how you would get sacks in the NFL. He just overpowered weaker opponents, but he doesn't really have the skill to do it at the next level. So he worries me, but man, if he could be so special.
Sounds like he's a Cowboys type, Mike.
Is he though? Will Mike McCarthy go for a guy that's 5'11", 180? Now, he fits what if he can do that at that level, he absolutely fits what McCarthy wants. Yeah. McCarthy wants you to run crosser slants, get the ball, break a tackle, and take it 60 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He wants you to be able to go vertical and beat a guy for a big play when we take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if he can do that at that size at the NFL level.
Where do you think he would be drafted as far as like what round would you want to take him?
I think he's a second round pick. If I could get him in the third, I'd cry. I'd definitely take the risk then. But I think he has too much production and enough size and enough skill where people will go, well, we can get other routes out of him. He has the skill to run other routes. He just never had to. So I think he'll go day 2, but he may not even get to us in the second round. It'll be in that area.
So it sounds like the 40 is going to be big for him.
Yeah, I think the combine, his interviews, his testing will all mean something to him.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Jason, a lot of people have been talking about Parker Washington. I know Brian Broaddus really likes him.
Yeah, Parker. I've heard that on was that Love of the Star that he was talking about that one?
No, it was on the local radio. It was on the radio.
Oh, 105.3. Okay.
Yes, sir. All right, Michael, I enjoyed that review. So your homework for next week, or for this week rather, prospect preview, you might have already been watching film on this guy, is Drew Sanders, linebacker out of Arkansas.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Let me make sure he's in here. But yeah, I've definitely have him on the I could probably do his now, but I don't have his measurables and everything on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's gonna be, you know what? I'll save it. I'm gonna save
it. Save it. Well, Mike, man, I enjoyed the discussion as always. Before we get you out of here, remind them where they can find you on Twitter.
At CD Piglet, guys. Letter C, letter D, Piglet. Nice and easy.
And Coach Clapper, Jason Garrett, thank you for joining us tonight, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
So funny we could draw.